My face is red from the air conditioning being off for so long.
It's red from your intensity recalling this hard time.
Fighting the government is not easy!
Hi, I'm Jackson Bird, and today I am joined by Chandler Wilson. Chandler.
That's me.
That's you. Yeah, no, random person, but Chandler's coming later.
Yeah, this is Chandler's hotel room. They'll show up later. They're on their way.
Yeah.
Traffic's bad.
So I feel like a lot of people watching probably know who you are, but for the poor souls who don't, can you please tell them a little bit more about you?
You have a lot of high hopes for me. I make videos about being non-binary and my transition as a non-binary person via hormones. I talk about different LGBTQ identities and like what they mean, and then I also make a bunch of silly, ridiculous videos like the video we made for my channel, which is the Newly Friend game, where we ask each other questions and we fail horribly.
We failed pretty bad. But if you want to watch it, I'll put a card or something, and there's definitely a link down below so you can go watch that. But today, we are going to talk about some tips for going back to school as a trans or non-binary or gender non-conforming or questioning kind of person.
Because I'm a child.
Not anymore! Today is Chandler's 20th birthday!
I aged out of my childhood era.
They're no longer a teen.
A hip teen.
Yeah, so we're really just some old giving the youngs advice now in this video.
This is not proper representation anymore.
What's ironic about that is, so I get asked a lot of different questions about, like, you know, talking to your teachers and your parents and all kinds of stuff, but I didn't transition as a teenager. Mm-hmm. I didn't transition until I was 25, so I never feel like I am able to answer those questions, but you did some social transitioning and coming out when you were in high school, so that's why I thought I would bring Chandler on as my my token teen.
You know,
answer.
Technically, I don't turn 20 until 10 tonight.
I was gonna ask actually,
so
what's the exact
19.
time? Go wild!
Can I just make the quick disclaimer? I didn't start physically transitioning while I was in high school. Mm-hmm. I do know people who did, and I can share, like, their experiences were that they shared with me, but I personally, like, hormones wasn't even on my radar when I was in high school. So all I did was essentially coming out socially with, like, a new name, new pronouns, and the struggles of being non-binary in a school that is very binary. Very binary.
Yeah. I think that's good because I think that's what a lot of people kind of struggle with. I mean, I definitely know there are a lot of people watching who are fortunate enough, if they want to be able to take hormones in high school, but I feel like a lot of the questions I get come from more on the side of, like, what is it like changing your name and your pronouns to your teachers and other parts of social transition? One thing that I always wonder about is what is the social peer pressure like when you start changing your appearance a little? If it's a haircut or wearing different clothes. Because when I was in high school, I remember, like, the slightest change to my appearance, I was so intimidated to do. Because it's like you're seeing the same people every day, and they're so judgmental.
Yeah, high schoolers suck. I actually entered high school with my hair already cut short, and actually when I started high school, I was extremely masked. I was known as, like, the butch lesbian of the school, pretty much, because I was so extremely, like,
I was always
masculine.
Scared to get that stereotype.
Yeah, I was
They're
like...
not nice about it. It's not, like, butch lesbian is a fine thing to be.
Yeah.
But when you're in high school, they don't say it in a nice way.
Yeah, but I was going through my scene emo phase.
I was gonna ask. I've seen some throwback Thursdays of your scene phase.
And they're not cute. It's not a look. So I was the more socially acceptable butch because I was around different, like, people. So I was around all the, like, alternative queer kids already. Mm-hmm. And so other people just kind of, like, left me alone.
So I guess the tip here is to find an alternative style.
Be extremely niche.
Be alternative.
Have a scene face. Do it. What was interesting, actually, with that is when I came out as agender, which means that I don't have a gender, under the non-binary umbrella, I, up until that point, felt so pressured and insecure in my masculinity and my femininity that I felt like I was overcompensating with my masculinity. So it wasn't until I actually came out as non-binary and realized what this experience was in me that I started to feel more liberated and could actually wear makeup and do my nails and do a lot of feminine stuff. And I feel like the reaction that I got from a lot of people was, finally Chandler's out of that scene phase.
Do you think people also had a reaction of being like, oh, they realized it was like the masculine thing was a phase?
I know for a fact that when I changed my name in school, people were very, very confused about how to interact with me, and a lot of people completely avoided using names or gendered language at all, because I feel like when I was super hyper-masculine when I entered high school, a lot of people thought that I was going to come out as a trans guy, And so the fact that I didn't, they were all like, what's going on with Chandler? I don't know.
What was, like, logistically, what was the process like when you changed your name and your pronouns? Like, did you tell your mom first, your friends first?
I came out about being agender towards the end of being 15 to myself.
Okay.
And that's when I started going by the name Chandler in April, the year that I turned 16. But I didn't tell I was still in school in April. I didn't tell anyone to call me Chandler except for maybe like 2 friends, but I even then was like, don't say it at school. Half of my classes were in this Spanish immersion specialty center, and I was going to be in the same classes with all these people all 4 years, and then half my classes were with the general public of the school. My mom was a Boosters Club member for that Spanish immersion program, and I wasn't ready to come out to her yet. So my junior year of high school, which is when I was 16, I came out in the other classes that I was in. So I came
like
out in my
classes.
Yeah, but then with my little Spanish program, I was still going by my birth name because I didn't think that my teachers would be unaccepting of calling me Chandler, and I know from experience that they weren't weird about it when I was a senior and I told them. Because of that, I was worried that with my mom being in the Boosters Club would be like, oh, Chandler did this today, blah, 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 and my mom would be like, what?
Yeah.
Who? And so I didn't come out to my program, but a lot of the kids who were in those classes were in the other classes with me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think they were really, really, really confused about how to refer to me, because in half the classes I was going by Chandler, and in half I was going by my birth name. So rather than saying like, hey, Chandler, or like, hey, birth name, they would come up to me and just be like, hey, can I, blah, 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 if they needed to talk to me to just completely avoid it.
Well, I mean, so it was, like, confusing to people because you were, like, in half of your program, but
Yes.
but then on top of that, you were changing your pronouns to they, them, right?
So the interesting thing about high school, nobody gives a crap about my pronouns when I was in high school. So
Sounds about right.
like, the year that I came out as non-binary, a bunch of people actually came out as trans guys.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that complicated things.
So I didn't feel like I could advocate for myself in my non-binary identity, so I never pushed anything. So as far as the entire school was concerned, I was still going to the girls' bathroom. I wore the girls' like graduation uniform and everything. I did the girls' stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going by Chandler. And it was only to some like people that I was like, hey, I am specifically non-binary, these are my pronouns. But even my friends in high school didn't really use my pronouns. So
I'm sorry. For people who are struggling to get their friends to use their pronouns, or maybe have some of that same awkward situation of like not ready to tell parents but would like to kind of be accepted at school, do you have advice?
So my first bit of advice is, I know that a lot of my friends, what we did when we came out as trans this year is we wrote letters to our teachers to give them to them beforehand. That way when they called the roll, they wouldn't say the name, because I had this very awkward experience where in my psychology class, the very first day of school, when the teacher calls out my birth name and I say, actually, can you call me Chandler? He was like, what? And I said, can you call me Chandler? He said, what? And I was like, Chandler, I'd like to go by Chandler. And he said, can you spell that for me? And I was like, C-H, and then I spell it, and I'm like, it was hard enough for me to even get up the courage to say,
Yeah.
So what my friends did to avoid that situation is they wrote letters like, hi, you know me on the roster as this, I am trans, this is my name, will you please refer to me with these pronouns? And they delivered that, like they got to school early at the beginning of the class before it was settled in and the bell rang or whatever. They would give the letter to the teacher and have like a private conversation with them off to the side to just say like, hey, can you please call me by this name?
Yeah.
And then also at that time you can introduce pronouns as well if you actually do come out to your teachers. Because since I was doing mine when the teacher like calls the roll, I didn't feel comfortable announcing to the entire class at that time, I go by Chandler. Also, it's because I'm trans.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to avoid that.
Yeah.
Like, even if you are, like, out and not trying to be stealth, it's still just like a...
It's a lot to do in a moment.
Yeah, it's a really nerve-wracking situation. I do know the writing letters or emails to teachers ahead of time is a really good idea. And you can do that for college as well. Mm-hmm. If there is some form of, like, counselor, or if you're really lucky, some type of GSA or something at your school, those are, like, teachers that you can reach out to ahead of time.
One of my biggest things of advice immediately is go to the highest level of authority that you can.
Yeah.
You can just keep going higher and higher till you find someone who's like willing and ready to defend you against a transphobic teacher.
You're absolutely right. Like, go as high as you can. If you need to go to the school board and, like, start making a fuss and fighting it and calling up the ACLU and stuff, do that.
I think it's important to get someone that you can speak to even after classes or after school.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to vent and be like, I had to deal with some BS today, and I don't want to do anything about it because I don't want to turn it into a big deal, but I just want to complain to someone who gets it.
Other things that might come up, I feel like we won't touch on too much because we didn't have the experiences, but like uniforms and bathrooms and gym class.
Yeah, I had those.
You had uniforms?
Well, I didn't have school uniforms, but my school was one of the very few schools that had uniforms for graduation. Girls wore white and boys wore blue.
Oh yeah.
All of the trans guys, they were allowed to wear blue, but I didn't express that I wanted to wear blue because I was like, my transphobic family is in town.
I was so scared that was going to happen at my school because the graduating class the year before me was like the high school centennial graduating class, so for some reason they divided the genders by color, which they had never done before, and I was like, oh no, is this going to be the new standard? But they went back to all blue for my... I wasn't like out in any way, I just, something inside of me was like, I can't be the girl color.
I don't know, but something is not adding up.
For like the other like bathrooms and gym classes and uniforms, it's all gonna be so specific to your school.
Yeah.
So I think like what we've been talking about of like having a teacher or a principal or someone in the administration who can be your advocate is the way to go. And I'm also gonna put a lot of resources down in the description box to things like Glisten and the Trans Student Educational Resources, because they've got all kinds of stuff so you can know your rights and know what you can fight or like how to approach your school and ask for certain things. And I think, Chandler, one thing I've really gotten out of this from your story is if you feel comfortable to advocate for yourself.
Yeah. I know that when I was in high school, there were very, 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 very few non-binary people. I was the only one that was out to the school. Whereas with the trans guys who went to my school who fought to be able to use the men's restroom, the non-binary folks who were my classmates, we kind of just stuck to the bathroom for where we were assigned at birth. So we were just like, I mean, it's the safest option at this point.
Yeah.
The boys' bathroom is gross.
It's true.
Like, what got me through high school when I felt like I wasn't comfortable with standing up for myself was having a teacher that I could just rant to. It takes a lot of support from friends and family and a lot to even boost your confidence to feel like you can stand up for yourself. So I was just like, I don't want to try and fight the school. I just want to get in high school, get out of high school. So it was nice to just have someone that I could just be like, I don't want to tell the principal or the school board or try and fight and pass legislation and do all of that mess, but I just gotta complain for a moment. Just gotta vent about the cis nonsense.
The system. Vent about the system, but don't fight the system. Not today.
Not to pick your battles.
Alright, I think we will leave it there for today. Of course, there is a ton more advice, but like I said, I'll put some resources down below. And hey, in the comments today, if you transitioned in any way or came out in high school and you've got some tips that we didn't say, leave them down in the comments, or if you're experiencing that right now and have any questions, we, all as a community in the comments, can kind of, you know, share our own thoughts or tips that we have.
Especially if you have different experiences than what we had.
Absolutely.
Since our coming out process in high school was either non-existent or was very limited.
Yeah, and I also will say, if you are non-binary or agender or some not strictly binary trans person and you're transitioning to high school, definitely check out Chandler's videos, because they have a lot of stuff specifically on their experiences at that time in their life. But also you should check out Chandler's channel in general and go subscribe and check out the video that we did together, the newly friend tag.
Lots of laughs, lots of disappointment.
Lots of disappointment.
Lots of Tom Holland.
Lots of Tom Holland.
Lots of Troy Sivan.
Yeah.
You need to follow all of his links, subscribe to his channel.
Yes.
And watch the last video.
Yeah.
Look at the playlists.
Yeah.
You know,
some great playlists.
Comment everything, leave a like, and share this video with your friends.
Especially share.
5-star rating it. No, it's not 2005 anymore.
Yeah, also review me on Yelp. Please review this video there. No, alright. Enough of that silliness. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.
I
didn't know how we were wrapping it up.
Say bye.
Listen, I don't know anymore. I'm 20.
You're so old now. You don't know.